All right, so in order to knit this sock, you need 2 skeins of drop slimmer. I have here the colorway, well, there's no color, 6235. It's like a bluey petrol color, and I like this. It makes a worsted weight sock, and it's good for a substitution for slippers around the house. And I always have, me and my husband, these are for my husband, we always wear them in the house because we have hardwood floor, and it's quite cold to just wear thin socks. So these are worsted weight, and for them I use drop slimmer, and you would need 2 skeins, so 1 for each sock, and also a different color yarn. And this is I think Drops Puna, I'm not sure, but it's a bit softer than this, less hard wearing than the Lima one, but we're only going to use this to put the marker for the heel. So like, let me show you here. So this is the marker for the heel, and I'll show you how to do that later on. But you only need a contrasting color yarn to do that. Obviously, if you want to knit the heel and the toe and the ribbing in a different color, then you would use maybe a skein of this for all of it. But in this video, I'm demonstrating you how to knit these socks in one color with the Afterthought heel or easy heel, or I don't know what you would call it, but yeah. So let's go ahead and cast on. So you leave longish tail because we need to cast on 48 stitches. So do a slip knot. You hold your yarn like that, put your finger through your thumb and grab on the tail and pull through, and that's your slip knot. And I will cast on double needles because it's easier to work the first row. And I'm going to cast on 48 stitches, and this is for a man, so it's like a bigger sock. If you're casting on for a woman, then you want to cast on 40 stitches. And I guess for kids you could do 30 stitches or 36 stitches. Anyway, these are for men, so I'm going to cast on 48 stitches. I have 1 stitch here, so I'm going to go under, grab the yarn, pull through, twist, under, grab the yarn and pull through. This is how you're going to cast on. I'll just do a few more and then I'll speed it up. So that's the cast on. If you still have a very long tail, then just cut it a few inches and leave it like that long. And now we're going to start knitting the magic loop method. And first I'm going to pull on one of my needles, and then I'm going to go half in my stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4. So 24 stitches there. And I'm going to pull the cable out. I mean, not out, but pull it through. And then being careful not to twist my stitches. I want to align both of my needles like this, like that. So the purl bumps, you want them facing up, the yarn, the working yarn on the back needle, and you want to align them like that. Okay, working yarn is on the back needle. I'm just going to pull the back needle like this and start knitting on the front. And for this sock I did 2x2 rib, so I'm going to start with knit 2, 1, 2, yarn in the front to purl 2, yarn in the back to knit 2, yarn in the front to purl 2. And you want to work obviously a couple of inches of this ribbing. That's what I did for this sock. It's called the easiest sock, I guess. I didn't count my stitches right here, huh? It's the easiest sock because all you do is knit a tube, and then you come back to the marker and you knit your heel there. So once you finish the stitches on your first needle, you want to go on to your next needle and continue knitting it in the round. Obviously you could do this with DPNs if you prefer, or 9-inch circulars. Alright, so now that I've got you started, all you need to do is keep on knitting until we put in the marker. Once you measure the cuff and you're happy with the length of the cuff, and I've done here some ribbing and some stockinette, you want to make sure that your stitches are split in half. So I have here 48 stitches, which means I need to have 24 on one side and 24 on the other. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 4 stitches. So I have 24 stitches. So this is the beginning of my round, and what I'm going to do now is leave that yarn there and take a different color yarn, and I have here some purple, and this is what I'm going to do to mark the heel. I'm just going to knit with this different color yarn, leaving a tail. I'm going to do a knot at this end, so I know that when I unravel it, I have to start at the other end. And I'll explain that when we get to that point. But now you finish knitting your cuff and you want to knit 24 stitches with a different color yarn using the magic loop. So all I do is hold the yarn here and then start knitting with it. Okay? So just knit all these stitches. There we go. So I've done half of my stitches with the purple yarn. Then I'm going to leave a little bit of yarn and then cut. And what I'm going to do next is just do a little, not a knot, I could just do a bow like this, so I know that those stitches are going to stay put. And I'm going to tuck it in. Okay? Then I continue knitting magic loop method in the round, and you can see here I left my yarn on this side, so what I'm going to do is bring it over to this side like that and just continue knitting. And don't worry about this yarn. We're going to cut it and weave it in when we finish our sock, but just continue knitting. As you can see, my yarn is coming from the other end, but I'm just going to hold it here and I'm going to continue knitting with it across the stitches until we get to the beginning of our round, and I'll show you what we need to do when we get there. And this sock is very easy sock to knit. The only thing will be that we have to do a little bit of tidying up when we're weaving in the ends, just because of the attaching a new color to make the heel and all that, but that's no problem at all. It will take you an extra like 2-3 minutes. So now we came to the beginning of our round, and these are the stitches we knitted with the purple. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit all those stitches with my main color. And I'll show you what it looks like after. But from now on, we just continue knitting in the round the length of the foot of the sock. Here we go. Let's do the other stitches and finish this round. Just make sure you pull on that first stitch to close that gap as much as possible. There will still be a gap there when we put in the heel, but I'll show you how to tidy that up when we get there. Here we go. We got to the beginning of our round again, and we're just going to continue to do stockinette for the length of the foot. But I wanted to show you what the purple yarn looks like in the work. Can you see? So the purple is just going to show as a line on one side of our sock, and I'll explain more what we're going to do when we pick up the stitches to do the heel. But for now, just continue knitting in the round the length of the foot, and then I'll show you how we shape the toe. So once we've knitted kind of the foot, so this is the heel marker, which means we are going to take out this yarn and we're going to knit the heel there, and then after the marker you want to knit the length of the foot minus about 3 inches. And why I say 3 inches, because once we knit the heel, it will add about 1.5 inches to the heel, and then shaping the toe will add another 1.5 inches. So from here you want to measure your foot, and then when you have 3 inches less, then you're going to start shaping the toe, and I'll show you how to do that now. So let's get the yarn out. This is very simple. I'm going to show you one round and then I'll let you get on with it. Alright, so this is the beginning of our round, and what you want to do is knit 1. Then we're going to do an SSK, and this is a decrease. So I'm going to slip 1 stitch, slip the 2nd stitch, put my left needle in and knit through the back loop, and that's an SSK. Then you want to knit through the stitches until you have 3 left. Nearly there. So now we have 3 stitches left here, and all we need to do is knit 2 together. So I'm not going to go in the first one, I'm going to go in the second and knit 2 of them together like that. That's another decrease, and then knit 1. Okay, then you move to the second needle and you do the same thing. So we're going to knit 1 SSK, so slip, slip, knit through the back loop, both of them together, knit until you have 3 stitches left. Oh. Okay, so we have 3 stitches left. I'm going to knit 2 together, and I'm going to knit 1. Okay, so you want to do this every other row, which means this row we've done the decreases, the next row we just knit 1 round, then the third row it's a decrease row, the fourth row knit knit all around. I have one that is ready to be finished. Here we go. This is what it's going to look like. So we started here with decreases, and we decreased until we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches left on each needle. And now I'm going to show you how to close the toe of the sock. So we're kind of done with the knitting here. So you want to leave a little bit of a tail like this. Cut your yarn. Grab one of these needles that has a very wide loop and is blunt, so you don't split your yarn. We're going to go in the first stitch on this needle. So we have back needle and front needle. We're going to start with the front needle. We're going to go in as if to knit in the first stitch of the front needle, and we're going to pull our yarn through. Okay, there we go. Then we're going to drop that stitch off the needle, and on the same front needle we're going to go in the second stitch as if to purl and pull the yarn, and we're going to leave that stitch, leave it there on the front needle, and we're going to move on to the back needle. The same, we're going to go in the first stitch as if to purl. This time we're going to start with purl. We're going to drop the stitch off, and then we're going to go in the second stitch of the back needle as if to knit, and we're going to leave that stitch still on, and then repeat in the front needle as if to knit, off, as if to purl, leave on, back needle as if to purl, off, as if to knit, leave it on the needle. And we continue doing this until we finish all our stitches. So in, knit, off, purl, on, purl, off, knit, on. And as you can see, the toe is shaping up. Can you see? And it's closing, and it looks like the knitting just keeps going and continues on the other side. Let's speed this up. And when you're left with 2 stitches on the needle, you go in the first stitch as if to knit, and you take it off, drop that needle, go in the other stitch as if to purl, pull it through, and then you're left with a little bit of a, like a, how should I say, these extra stitches on your yarn. But don't worry, I'll show you, you just hide them inside. So what we're going to do, this is what it looks, this is what the toe looks like. So we're just going to go in like this and bring the yarn through, and then what you want to do is weave in just weave in your yarn however you want. I usually just go around a few purl bumps and then I make a knot, because this is very sticky wool. It will stick to itself and is not going to come undone. So if you think your yarn might come undone, or if you're using superwash, then just try to do a bit more like weaving in. But yeah, that is the toe. As you can see, the sock looks like this. So it just looks like a long tube with a tapered end. And now we're going to add a heel here. So we're going to do that in the next segment. All right, we're ready to pick up the stitches and work the heel for our sock. So you want to go inside your sock, and we have our yarn tied up here, and you just want to untie it, or you can just cut it. Just remember where you put your knot. I'll show you what I mean. Let's just get that undone. Come on. There we go. So this is our yarn, and we want to bring these two ends in the front of our work. I should have left them in the front, but just, you know, try to put them through that gap and bring them out. There we go. Okay, so bring your sock back, and now we have a knot on the right side, which means this is where we started putting in our marker, and this will tell us that it's from this end that we need to start unraveling. So first we're going to pick up our stitches, and then we'll take the purple yarn out. We want to go on the first stitch, and let's see if you can see here. So this is our first stitch. Can you see it? The first V. And we're going to go on the right leg of the V under. That would be our stitch. So we're going to go in the first one, second one, third one, fourth, and keep doing this until you pick up all your stitches. And you'll know how many you need to pick up, because it's half of the stitches that you casted on, depending on the size you're knitting. We're nearly there. Yeah, that's the last stitch. Let's see how many, if I picked up all of them. "24." All right, so that's under the marker. So I'm just going to pull those stitches and leave them on the cord. Okay, then I'm going to turn my sock and go on this other side of the marker to pick up the stitches. And you want to go the same under the first V. As you can see, that's the first V, and I'm going to go on the right leg, under the right leg of the first V, and continue doing that all the way until I have the same amount of stitches picked up. We're getting there. Here we go. Now let's make sure we have 24. Stitches, okay? So I'm going to pull those stitches on the cord, and this is what it's going to look like. And this might sound complicated to you, but it's very easy, because all you need to do is pick up stitches under and over the marker. And now we're going to go back like this, and here we have the knot end, which means we're going to start unraveling on this end, on the non-knotted end. And you just want to take another needle. So I have this, my tapestry needle, and you want to just bring out this purple yarn. Just, you know, pull it out like this, and it will come right out. You could do 2 at a time, but it's easier just to do 1 at a time. And obviously, you know, you can just cut it and continue unraveling it like this. And that will make our stitches live on our working needles. Can you see? We have live stitches again. Let's cut it again. It's easier if it's short. Here we go. Let's move all these yarns out. And we picked up stitches for our heel. This is the end that we're just going to weave in after we finish knitting the heel. But for now, we're going to work magic loop on these stitches. We're going to close in and work them as a round. So you need to pick up your yarn. Okay, and we're going to attach it. And for the first round, we're just going to knit. We're just going to do a 1 knit round to kind of close in the gaps and attach the new yarn. So hold your yarn like this and just knit. And if you want, you could use a different color yarn for the heel. That would make it, that would just make the heel a different color, which will make it pretty as well. But for mine, I'm just going to keep it all one color. And I'm just going to show you how we close in gaps, because you do have a little bit of a gap when you pick up stitches. So we finished the back needle, so we're going to move to the next needle, and as you can see here, we have a big ginormous gap. So what we want to do is pick up this, like pick up a stitch in between and knit it. Okay, then if you have a bigger gap, then just pick up another one. So I'm going to pick up this one. You put it on your left needle and knit it. Okay, and then what you want to do to close in the gap, you just want to knit them together, knit your first stitch, and remember when you come the next time, because you picked up an extra stitch there, you want to decrease it. And I'll show you what we're going to do for the next round. So knit through all your stitches. Okay, now we're back at the beginning of our round and we need to close in this gap. So we're going to close it the same way. You're just going to pick up a stitch in between, put it on your left needle and knit it. If you need to pick up another one, pick up another one. I don't need to pick up another one here, so I'm just going to knit the first stitch. So I have an extra stitch here which I need to remember on the next round I need to decrease it. Yeah, so just knit all these stitches again. So one more round of knitting and then one more round of knitting, and after that we're going to start the decreases. And if you don't have any gaps, then I guess you could start the decreases right away. Okay, now we need to decrease the first stitch, which means just, you know, knit two together. The first stitch, for the first stitch, just knit two together. Okay, knit to the end. Now we're at the beginning of another round and we're going to decrease the first stitch and then knit the whole round, simple knitting. So I'm just going to knit two together to decrease the stitch that I picked up and knit all around. Okay, one more needle to knit and then we start the decreases. So the decreases, we're going to work exactly like the toe. That's why I call this the easiest sock, because you don't need to do any heel flap, gusset, picking up stitches, decreases for the gusset and all that. You just work another toe instead of a heel. So the heel and the toe is work exactly the same with the decreases. Okay, this is what our sock looks like for now. We've closed in the gap where we picked up the stitches for the heel. Now if your gap is not completely closed, don't worry, you have to weave in ends there anyway, and you can use the end to weave it in and close in that gap. But this is how we're going to decrease. So I'm going to knit one, pull on the yarn, and then slip, slip, and knit the two together through the back loop. Knit until we have 3 stitches left. So we have 3 stitches left. I'm going to knit 2 together and then knit 1. For the next, we're going to do the same for the next needle. Oh, that's a bit tight there. So I'm going to knit 1, slip, slip, knit through the back loop, knit until we have 3 stitches left. And I have to mention, this is not like 100% beginners project, because obviously you would have to know how to knit, how to purl, how to pick up stitches, how to do decreases and all that stuff. But I do think that if you pay attention and obviously you pause the video where you need to look into it or maybe rewind and look at it again, then anyone could knit this sock. So I have 3 stitches left. I'm going to knit 2 together and then knit 1. So that's the decrease row, and we're going to decrease every other row, which means the second row, the next row after decrease is just a plain knitting row. And you're going to keep doing that until you have 10 stitches left on both needles, or 10 stitches left on this needle, 10 stitches left on the back needle, and then we're going to close exactly the same as the toe with a Kitchener stitch. So yeah, that is the sock. And I'm gonna go and finish the heel, and I'll show you how to close with the Kitchener stitch again, and then we weave in the ends and our sock is ready. So this is the last part of the sock. As you can see, that's the toe, this is the heel. We've knitted it exactly the same way as the toe. As you can see, it's kind of like mirrored knitting. And you have 10 stitches left on each needle, and we're going to do the same thing like we did for the toe. Leave a little bit of a tail, cut it. Okay, use one of these needles, and we're going to do the Kitchener stitch. So go in the front as if to knit, take it off as if to purl, leave it on, back as if to purl, take it off as if to knit, leave it on. So when you're left with 2 stitches, we do the same, go in as if to knit, take the stitch off, go in as if to purl, and take the stitch off the needles, and we end up with this. Can you see? That's our heel. And sometimes you get this enlarged stitch, and you can just hide it with your yarn. Using sticky wool, using non-superwash wool can help you so much, especially if you're a beginner and you need to like attach new yarn, or some of the stitches are too loose. It helps you so much because you just go in and out and do some knots on the back like this, and the yarn will stick to itself and it will not come undone. So I do advise, if you're a beginner, that you use sticky wool or non-superwash wool. It's a lot better, a lot easier to work with than superwash wool. Okay, let me show you what the sock looks like when it's ready. That's the extra yarn, we're going to weave it in. That's the extra yarn, and we're going to weave it in. And this is what the sock will look like when you're done with it. Obviously, it needs to be blocked. Oh, you can't see it. That's the heel, that's the toe. They're worked exactly the same. They fit really well. They're very comfortable, and they're very easy to knit. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it's helpful, and if you have any question, pop that down below. As I said, it's not 100% beginner. I would advise you to pause. If you think the video is too fast, just pause or rewind and look through it again, and then yeah, good luck. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.